Hey guys, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. I gotta admit, I wasn't planning on making another video so soon, but there's been so much huge Star Trek news recently that I kind of feel like I have to. As you know, traditionally, my news videos are somewhat formal. I make separate videos for movies and TV series. I try to progress through the articles in order of their appearance on the internet. We go over every fact stated, every statement made, and if I'm honest, that's just not gonna work today. There's too much going on, and it's all going on at the same time. So I'll just do my best. As usual though, I will put all of the links in the description if you want to check them out. Now to kick things off, we gotta talk about the huge CBS announcement and the Star Trek Discovery drama. Essentially, a few weeks ago, Discovery lost its two showrunners, Gretchen J. Berg and Aaron Harberts. These two joined the show along with Brian Fuller back before it began, as kind of his right-hand duo. The three have worked on a lot of shows together over many years, and I suppose Discovery was simply supposed to be the next on that list. However, we all remember how Brian Fuller left shortly after signing on, and it was Berg and Harberts that were left in charge. Now that they're also gone, Alex Kurtzman has been designated showrunner, and it would seem that this time we're looking at a more promising situation. That's not an attack on Fuller, Harberts, or Berg, it's just that in the days following his rise to showrunner, Kurtzman negotiated a massive deal with CBS regarding Star Trek, which kinda makes me feel like not only was he prepared, but he also has a clear vision for this franchise we all love. Something that didn't necessarily feel present during the production and release of Discovery's first season. Okay, so Kurtzman owns a production company called Secret Hideout, and he just signed a 5-year contract with CBS, which, as they put it, enables him to supervise the expansion of the Star Trek franchise for television. Kurtzman himself said, "CBS has allowed us the great pleasure of reintroducing the world of Star Trek to audiences new and old, and we are very excited to keep working alongside them to expand that world." Of course, he had to use the word expand, so everyone's freaking out talking about a cinematic universe. Look, I wouldn't use that term quite yet, simply because everything in Kurtzman's deal only concerns TV stuff. All the movies are a Paramount thing, and since that merger that was being negotiated between CBS and Paramount went really sour and eventually failed, I don't think there's a lot of potential for crossover at this point. The best we fans can hope for is some sort of rivalry or competition between the two studios, which would ultimately push them both into making the best content they possibly can. Alright, so let's talk about that content. Attached to the official CBS statement, there was a list of bullet points going over the current various projects they have in the works. They are a series set at Starfleet Academy from creators Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz. The duo most recently developed the CW's reboot of Dynasty and previously created shows like Gossip Girl and Marvel's Runaways. A limited series whose plot details are being kept under wraps. A limited series based around the Wrath of Khan story. Khan's full name is Khan Noonien Singh. He was famously portrayed by Ricardo Montalban in both the original series episode Space Seed and again in the film Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Benedict Cumberbatch then played the character in the 2013 film Star Trek Into Darkness, an animated series whose plot details are being kept under wraps. As you can see, this is all very vague and yet massive. The idea is Star Trek is significant, both culturally and historically, but its fanbase is somewhat old. Also, Star Trek is a huge universe in which so many different things are happening at the same time, so it only makes sense to try and branch out and make different styles of shows for different types of people. The Starfleet Academy project, for example, would be for teenagers. We're probably talking over-the-top drama and stories focused more on representation, acceptance, empowerment, things that are very topical and relevant to today's youth. Or at least the youth of the United States. Then you get the Khan miniseries, which is clearly for the old school fans, and then an animated series which could be just as much something completely new and out of the box, or something fans have been wanting for years, like a Next Generation era show in which they could even guest star Next Generation actors. Speaking of the Next Generation actors, Sir Patrick Stewart has recently been dropping... Look, I don't know if it's hints or teasers, but he's been dropping enigmatic lines about a possible involvement in a Star Trek project. This began when Tarantino was confirmed to direct an upcoming movie. Sir Patrick Stewart seemed interested in working with him, but the leading theory as it stands is that second bullet point, a limited series whose plot details are being kept under wraps, is a Captain Picard miniseries that will serve as a send-off and ending for both the actor and the fans. I mean, generally speaking, Nemesis isn't the most appreciated Star Trek movie, so a proper goodbye would be something logical. All of these CBS shows, of course, would take place in the prime timeline. There's no reason to think otherwise, unless they specifically do a miniseries that takes place in the Mirror Universe, for example. I mean, considering that was hands down the most successful arc of the first season of Discovery, I could see them try to bank on that. It's Discovery itself that I don't see being the flagship of all of these new shows. I like the idea of creating shows that have different formats, different styles that take place in different eras and that each target, to a certain extent, their own demographic. But I feel like the main show, the centerpiece of all of that, shouldn't be something as new and as radical as Discovery. I feel like it should be a show that better represents the original vision of Gene Roddenberry. Something about exploration, and more importantly, something that couldn't be considered a period piece. A show that continues the story of Star Trek where we last left it in the timeline. That's after the events of Nemesis and the destruction of Romulus and Remus. But I mean, that's just me. Maybe a lot of people are happy having Discovery as the centerpiece. Maybe Discovery will move into more exploration as the seasons go by, so it'll be fine. I know having all sorts of different Star Trek shows can seem frustrating to some certain extent because, I mean, they're all going to be different, which means chances are there's at least one that you're not going to like. But believe it or not, that's positive. Star Trek has always been about promoting differences and doing new things. Socially, it's great to see we can push the boundaries yet again and apply that logic to the art form itself. It'll make a show like Discovery or a movie like Beyond easier to accept if we have different styles going on at once. It gives you a choice. I mean, like, what are you in the mood for today? Action Trek, science Trek, political Trek, animated Trek, whatever the hell kind of Trek Discovery is. I'm so mean. I'm sorry. On a side note, it is interesting to think about the fact CBS might be willing to release shows both on cable and on video-on-demand streaming services, keep the serialized stuff on CBS All Access or Netflix, but then have episodic shows released on cable. To finish this off, I did want to talk about Kurtzman himself because, you know, he gets hated on quite a bit, and I guess I sorta, kinda, maybe see why, but it all just seems very unjustified to me, or at least exaggerated. The dude is blamed for the Transformers franchise, he's blamed for the Kelvin timeline, he's blamed for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and The Mummy 2017. He worked on Transformers 1 and 2 and then left, so I find it difficult to hold him responsible for the current state of the franchise. I'm not the biggest fan of the Kelvin timeline, but be that as it may, I'm adult enough to acknowledge it brought Star Trek back. So that's more a pro than a con concerning Kurtzman. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 he co-wrote with like 3 other writers, so who's to say the extent of his work? And The Mummy 2017 is not a bad movie. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. Kurtzman was tasked with not only reimagining the classic tale, but also introducing an entire cinematic universe. It was a very tough job, and he did what he could. Look, all I'm trying to say is I think there's a lot of negativity surrounding the guy, or maybe apprehension as to whether or not he's going to be able to pull this off, but I'm happy with the fact we have one person leading this whole operation that seems to have things planned out. And then, of course, on the big screen side of things, we also have 2 Paramount movies in production. The Kelvin Timeline movie, commonly referred to as Star Trek 4, though yes, it will be the 14th, and the Tarantino Trek project, which I guarantee you will have something to do with time travel and will be cut in a way that won't make sense until the end of the movie. I say this because Tarantino's favorite original series episode is City on the Edge of Forever, and his favorite Next Generation episode is Yesterday's Enterprise. There's a pattern. There's a theme. Okay, well, there you go. You're all caught up with, well, both the news and my opinions. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If you have any opinions of your own, feel free to share them. And, that's it. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends, help them keep updated as well, and, of course, live long and prosper.